Welcome to Applied Logics. In this video, we will see how we can find the smallest number in an array. For example, let's say you have an input array with 3 elements, that is 5, 3 and 2. In this case, your program should return 2 as the output. For more example, like let's say you have one more array with 5 elements and the element values like 10, 20, 40, 50 and 30. In this case, you should get 10 as the output. Now let's see how we can build this logic in a Java. So I'm creating a Java file and giving a name as a solution.java to it. Okay, so you can see a public class solution is here. Let's add main method, which is generally a entry point for any program, that is public static void main. Okay, and pass the string argument to it, string args as per the syntax. Okay, we will add one more function to it which will accept array as the input and will return the minimum element from that array, that is the smallest element. So let's define that function, public static integer. The reason we took integer because that function will return the smallest element, and get smallest element. So we are giving the name like that, get smallest element, and we are passing an array to it. Okay, cool. So we have defined two functions. So one point I would like to mention over here is that we tend to add more functions to the code. Okay, we might add the same code inside main as well without creating a new function. But if you create a function with a concise set of instructions, that actually increase the readability of your code and it will help you going forward. Okay, so always keep in mind, try to create the functions as much as possible. Okay, so I'm declaring an integer array over here, like values array, and I'm initializing it with our first input, that is 5, 3, 2. Okay, then I will take one more variable to hold the result. Result equals to get smallest element and will pass values array to it. Now the result variable will hold the smallest element. We will simply put it on the console by using system.out.println, that is system.out.printed new line. Okay, and we want to print the result. Okay, cool. So with that, we are done with the main method. Okay, now let's move to the get smallest element method. Okay, so let's declare one variable called as a smallest element and initialize it with the very first value from the array. And how we can access very first value? We can access it with input of 0. Okay, I am not following the camel case, hence I got a warning. So remember that whenever you give name to any variable or any functions or methods, try to follow the camel case syntax. Okay, and I will simply return the smallest element out of this function. Now here we have to write a logic to find the smallest element. Now in order to find the smallest element, we basically need to iterate through entire array. So what we are doing, a traverser iteration, that is traverser, and we know that we need a for loop in order to traverse any iterable. So let's take a for loop. I'll quickly initialize it with integer I equals to 0. I will iterate it till I have more elements into the array. So it will be like input dot length, and we'll increment the counter by 1. Okay, now inside the loop, what we will do, Yeah, let me make one correction. So instead of starting from 0th index, we can start from the 0, but as we have initialized our smallest element with the first element, we can start from the next element, that is second element. So we can have I equals to 1. Okay, now here we have to make the comparison between smallest element. If smallest element is, if the smallest element, so instead of this I will write in this way, like input, so the current element which is being accessed, that is input of I, if that element is smaller than our actual smallest element, so in that case we are going to replace our smallest element, because earlier, for example, 5 was the smallest for us, right? Now when I points to 1, it will, the value which will be accessed is a 3. Now the 3 is less than smallest, that is 3 was less than 5, hence we have to update the smallest element, right? So we will update it with the input value. Okay, so that is input of I, that's what we are updating, and we are returning the result after that particular loop. Let's quickly look at the loop and traverse it by manually. Okay, so initially when you come inside this particular loop, you will have an input with 3 values, that is 5, 3, 2, and you will assign first value out of that array to the smallest element variable. So your smallest element variable will become 5 in our case, right? Now you got the for loop and you come inside the for loop. Now here you will see if input of I, that is input of 1, that is 3, is 3 less than our smallest element, that is 5. Yes, 3 is less than 5, hence we will go inside for construct and we will update the smallest element value from 5 to 3. Okay, we will come out of if condition, and yes, as we are incrementing the I value, now I will become 2. Now if once I becomes 2, input of I will become, input of I will points to the very last element, that is 0 is the first, 1 is the second, and 2 is the third element. So input of I will points to 2. So here we will check whether 2 is less than smallest element. What was our last smallest element? Yes, it was 3. So we will check whether 2 is less than 3. Yes, it is. The condition will return true. Hence we will go inside if and we will update the current value to the smallest element. So we will update 2 to the smallest element. We will come out of if loop. We will increment the i's value. Now I value will become 3, and because of that this condition will return false. Hence we will come out of for loop and we will return smallest element. In this case it will be 2. So let's see how if it works. Okay, so I'm opening the terminal, and as per the syntax I have to compile it first. So I'm compiling the solution.java file. If you want to see here, the class file got generated after the compilation. Now I'm running the code and hit enter. Yes, I received 2 as the output. Okay, let's add some more values to it. Let's take our second example, like 10, 20, 40, 50, and then 30. Okay, so in this case our code should return 10 as the result. Let's quickly test the same. I'm compiling the code. Yes, let me run it. Yes, so we received 10 as the output. Yeah, so this is the code to calculate the smallest element of the array. If you have any questions around it, feel free to post the comment inside the comment box. Thank you.